Welcome to A Dose of Feeling. I'm Mushka, just a real human navigating the beautiful chaos of life. This podcast is about keeping it real, sharing my highs, lows, and the lessons that shaped me. It's a mix of stories, inspiration, and honest conversations, like chatting with a friend who just gets it. So get comfy and let's dive into this journey together. Let's feel it all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Dose of Feeling. I'm so excited to be here today with my husband, Menachem, aka Mendy. But yeah, welcome.
Hi, I'm Menachem.
And if you're listening, you're here just because you're listening into one of our conversations. And that's what it is. Just
Fair enough.
casual conversation. And, you know, you may have heard bits and pieces about our life and our story and our relationship. And I sometimes post things about our marriage and little tidbits. And
Right. Without my permission, per se.
everything I post, I show you. A lot of things I post, I show you.
I also gave you blanket permission to say
Unlimited,
anything.
yeah.
So yeah.
Unlimited. I hope that this is the beginning of more podcasts with you because I want it to be like we're sitting around and we're just talking and people can take what they want. And I say this at every podcast.
Right.
You take what you want and you leave the rest. So today, what I want to talk about is a piece of our story, which is addiction. Okay.
Yes.
And addiction has like our addiction story has many parts to it. And I don't think we've really ever come out and said like everything. And maybe that's like the fun in it, that
Yeah.
we trod a little trail, like a little trail along the way. You know, once someone called me and they were like saying bits and pieces about things, you know, I really, I want to talk to you about this. And I'm starting to, you know, you're saying things in your posts that make me think that maybe you've struggled with addiction in your relationship. And they were like, yeah, I'm struggling and I know you are too, so help me, you know. And it's really good that I could do that in this podcast and in speaking with you here as well, or on my social media, wherever or whenever I talk to anyone. My goal is to help people because I believe for myself and I also believe for our relationship, and maybe if you can say the same to it too, is that we go through things for a reason, and there are many reasons to it. I believe that one of the biggest ones is that other people can learn from us and can feel supported in what they hear from us.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's one of the things. Also, I believe that also it creates the story creates the person, makes the person stronger because you need to work out, and this is the soul's workout to whatever is beyond and soul's journey. Yeah, about addiction. Funny, this morning, I'll tell you what I was thinking. Um, I was thinking about the level of commitment that I put and the level of commitment I saw in recovery from a lot of guys I went to. I was part of one of the S programs, and to see the level of commitment these guys had. A lot of guys made fun of us, and we were extreme, and we took things very extreme and stuff. And yeah, maybe we did. But the level of commitment we had was so incredible, like so powerful. You know, you hear stories about people that put their, religion first. I saw, I saw myself and I saw guys put their sobriety and recovery first because they wanted their marriage to work out. It was beautiful to see. And then I thought about something really beautiful. Sitting there, I'm like taking in all that ego, and I'm like, yeah, look how strong I was. And then all of this big hit to me was, now look at how strong and committed the women were. And that's when it really hit me because I feel, yes, sometimes it takes a deep, deep level of commitment something I think goes beyond logic, why the woman would want to stay when there's there's like a personal, especially when it comes to sex addiction, when there's a personal, it's very personal, the betrayal. And I remember once a story, someone, I think you told me, where someone told you like they were, I guess, in their husband was like maybe in the alcohol, the narcotics program, and she said to you, oh, I don't know how you guys do this. I don't know how you. If my husband did that, no, I'm out. And sometimes maybe it was fear in the beginning, but eventually I remember at a time where you were either you kicked me out or you locked the door. You know, you kind of like set me outside, and you're like, hell, you're not living like this. And you were ready to leave. There was no fear. It's ready to leave. And I feel there's a deep, deep level of commitment under, yes, maybe fear is at the beginning, but then once you gain a lot of self confidence, the woman to be committed to the man still, to all the crap, needs to have such a deep commitment. So it was nice. It was nice to like see that today and get a memory of it. And I felt very, very proud that I was married to someone like that. And I feel that the only way I could have a deep commitment is if my wife had a deep commitment.
Mm.
You know, if you didn't have a deep commitment, I can feel it, and I would probably shake off because you demanded. I think we were talking about maybe like how we can help people, and as and anyone struggling now, starting off in addiction, whatever it is, first thing is you gotta make it the priority, commitment.
Mm. Well, thank you for saying that.
Mm,
It's funny you say that because I was going to say something about commitment too. But I first want to say I actually didn't expect you to say about the addiction. But here we are, and I'm feeling so confident and here I'm ready to post this tomorrow. At all. um, because I'm just like, there's so much to say about it, to show people it, to be open about it, like
yeah,
to let people know, like there's nothing to hide behind,
yeah,
it's like it's not worth hiding behind. It takes a lot to get to this place.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're coming up on six
6 years,
years,
yeah,
6 years of this. Thank God it's a long time behind us, but we were married 5, 6 years, and I wanted there to be a commitment. I wanted to be committed to this marriage. It was 5, 6 years into the marriage, and I didn't want to run out. Yes, I kicked you out and locked the door and all of that many times, but I wanted to be, I wanted to work. And so, what I was going to say before you brought this up is how grateful and lucky and thankful that in our situation that you did start off committed. That you came to me and said, I am committed to changing, to working on this, and I will do everything because I want this. And that gave me the strength to be committed.
yeah,
Unfortunately, many people's story isn't like that,
right,
and one partner is out before they even begin because
yeah,
they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, I'll commit, but then they don't do anything. And it's all about the actions. I could only be committed if I had a partner who was committed.
right. So I guess it
It
goes
go yeah,
hand in
it goes both ways.
hand.
Yeah. So now that you've said that,
Yeah, yeah.
I actually feel more confident. In a way, I wish this was live because I'm like, all right, we ripped the band-aid off.
Well, that's. I used to have a lot of shame around it, and I got to a lot of place, a lot of love, loving myself, not just for all the good things I did, but honestly loving even the parts of me that made mistakes. And it's part of the growth. It's like a child that's walking down the street. I'll say it. I'm not embarrassed to say that I'm still very immature and many, many levels. I used to have a very high ego, and another beautiful thing recovery gave me, it literally broke my ego in half. I mean, I don't know how many times I had to crawl back to you and apologize and like in front of couples therapist that we had. You guys were hitting me hard, and it was hard to take. And I realized my mistake. Like if I made a mistake, there's no other way around it. Just accepting it and saying, okay, I don't want to do it again. So here I want to show up again now.
Mm.
You're right. I think the best way, one way communicating, and this can, is if people like struggle with like saying I'm sorry or stuff. It's like saying, hey, I'm sorry I did this. I was not there for you before, but I want to be today, right now, right here. What can I do?
Mhm.
That was a big thing I learned. Like forget the whole stories right now. Okay, you're right. Not to downplay the woman, but for myself to say, to tell myself, yes, I made the mistakes, but can I show up today? Yes. Is it painful? Yeah, it is because the memories and the feelings of what I did, but to constantly push that agenda that I wake up this morning, I can be the best version of myself.
Mm. Yeah, I like it. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah,
Every day is another day,
it's
but start
right
somewhere.
there.
Yeah. My spiritual psychologist, Effie, she's amazing. But I once told her like when I put the first post on my Instagram about our
Yeah.
relationship, I don't know if I told you this, and I was like, I don't know, and I don't know if I can put myself out there. She's like, Mushka, there's only so much beating around the bush that you can do. Like
I mean,
how many months are you gonna beat around the bush for? I was like, wait, one day I have to like say everything? I was like, I don't know about everything, but like you can only hide for so long. How long can you do that for? Eventually it's all gonna come together. Like you're gonna have to be open even for yourself. How much longer will you hide within yourself or within the shame or the judgment or the fear? How long can you do that for? So it was really big like slap in the face to my to my like my little the hidden part of me, which was like, what? No, it's so safe and great to hide here and I want when I want. Also, once you put things out there, it's sometimes too late to take it back. And so I want things to be my way, but it's not always like that. So we'll see
yeah.
where that train goes. I did want to kind of bring us to a couple like within the space of addiction and recovery. And, like I said, it's been almost 6 years of this. And thank God we're in a good place. And, our relationship is getting healthier and stronger as time goes on. I'm very, very blessed for that. But what are some things that you feel like, I mean, I can share as well, like I'll put it out there for you that you feel really helped support us, whether strategies or tools or things that we're able to support each other throughout this journey.
Well, a big thing is you get your own support. Each individual in the relationship is going to have to work on themselves. Maybe unfortunately or fortunately, whichever, depends where you're holding. The partner will also have to work on themselves. And I think in any partner, and so each one needs to get their own support because you have two people fighting at each other, they can't stop themselves. So you need other people to help you learn how to regulate. And then, so for me, it was I got a sponsor, I got a therapist, I had many different groups I was going to, brotherhood, men's meetings, regular meetings, therapist. Yeah, and then also sometimes I got a coach even to add to the stress with whatever my. So I was also dealing with a lot of family issues. Woke that up. So that's number one to create your outside support. It's super helpful because if you don't know how to regulate, the reason why maybe someone is an addiction is because they don't know how to regulate themselves. So you got to first learn how to regulate. And your wife can't do that for you. Your partner can't do that for you because she's the main one that's going to trigger you. So sometimes it could be good things that it's activation in your bodies that will happen, and she's the mirror. When I say she, I mean because it was you. So you are my mirror, and so that's number one.
I just want to stop you there
Yeah.
for a second. Sorry. I love that you said, when I said, what are ways that we can support that strategies or that we could support each other, the first thing you said
Mm.
was support yourself,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that is really the key. You can only support each other, you can only show up for each other or help each other once you've completed that for yourself.
100%.
And so I just want to like really emphasize on that
Yeah.
and reiterate how important that is. That it's not about, I need to change this person, I need to help this person. The only way you can do that is by starting with working on yourself,
Hmm.
and then looking at how that then like folds over into the relationship.
Yeah. That's my big belief. So the only way to really show up, and then the book called Road Less Traveled, he goes into and discusses what's the
I only
idea of.
read like 5 pages,
Yeah,
but I tell everyone to read it.
it's a very deep book. I remember even my therapist was like, "This is her Bible." Like, it's a very deep book, and he basically tries to understand love. He says it's very hard to. It's like it's impossible to understand love, but let me tell you what's not love. And he goes into what's not, and he says, how can a person show up to a marriage and love someone if they don't even know how to love themselves?
Mm,
How? How do you give love? You don't even have it for yourself. So this whole premise is really it's all about you, and it's something called like interdependence. Like you depend on the person, but you only depend on them up to a certain point, and then after that, it's all really you really have to depend on yourself and everything. You have to learn how to take care of yourself. I have journals from years ago, and I'm reading my journals.
mhm.
I read my journals every day from like 3 4 years ago. It's just difference. You put in the work every day. Doesn't even take long. Just put it in every day, and eventually you come out. Before you know, you're like, holy smokes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to say also like
Yeah.
this. The way I look at it, at least from our story, was in the beginning, it's not the woman's fault for the addiction itself, per se, like the addiction, right? Yeah, maybe it could be an enabler or whatever. But the man needs to take the first step. And the man needs to shut his mouth. That's my way of doing it. I made a mistake. I go clean up my side of the street. I remember hearing once from someone's podcast, like, don't give your wife any ammunition. That's your goal. Don't give her any more ammunition. Eventually, a lot of times you would be upset and everything, but I wasn't continuously doing the things that I did. So you eventually came to a place where you're like, all right, it's time for me to change. And I know guys in recovery that their wives never even took it up and never like I don't know if they worked themselves, just like, hey, this is your problem, you deal with it. And you know what? They kept going and they're still married, happily married, they have a beautiful relationship. So I don't know necessarily if the other person needs to.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, we're talking from personal experience. This is
Right,
what
right.
worked for us.
Right.
But because you gave that example of women who didn't work on themselves and everything's fine, I'll also give the example of many people who didn't work on themselves. The woman,
Right.
and she constantly had in her head, he's a problem. You did this, you're doing it, and they thought it could be fine.
So
And
talk about
she
that.
says, yeah, she says, it's all you, fix yourself. So when all of this came into our lives, I first wanted to see the commitment. What's happening here? Is it worth the effort to
Mm.
put into the relationship? And I have people who tell me that, maybe they're newly married and something comes up, addiction or really anything, and they'll say, is it worth it? Should I just run?
Right.
And at the beginning there kind of was a lot at stake for me. We had 2 kids, and we had a life here, and financially I wasn't self-sufficient financially, and so there was a lot at stake, and I was like, let me at least risk, quote unquote, risk um, committing to this and trying to
Right.
make it work. And it helped that you proved your commitment to trying to work as hard as you could. And I knew for me that the next step was, I need to work on I need to look at this. I was very hurt. a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of pain. And I couldn't just live with all of that and trust that you would take care of yourself and that's
Right,
it.
right.
I had to do something with all of that. Whether or not I worked on all my other baggage and traumas and this and that, the first thing I needed to do was learn how to live with all of these hard feelings that it brought up. So yeah, my strategies were very similar. I got a therapist. We did couples therapy. I went to recovery groups. At one point, I think I was doing three. We had a Sunday night, a Tuesday night, and I think a Saturday night at one point. And like two or three a week I was going to, like all different types. Oh my gosh, it was a lot. And through that, I got a sponsor and I had a lot of support groups and a lot of friends who were in the same boat. And I got like every book on Amazon. I remember at one point, like I wasn't even reading the titles anymore. Like I typed in like addiction or recovery or trauma or marriage. I just ordered. And I was like, I'm going 100% headfirst into this. This is my whole entire
Yeah.
life now. And that, I mean, that's me in general. I'm very determined and committed. If I want something, I'll give it 100%. And so that worked to my advantage. And people might say, like, why? Why did you want it to work? Why did you try so hard?
Right.
And yes, there was a lot at stake. You know, I had kids, and but the biggest thing for me was that I loved you as a husband. I loved who you were, besides for all this,
Mm.
besides for this addiction and everything else that came with it, because I know, and back then I had educational background in I was a therapist and I was in school again and I had backgrounds in addictions and mental illness, and thank God because I could see the addiction as like a mental illness model, and I know it's definitely like the whole model on addiction has changed and transformed over the years, and there's a lot of different opinions. But at that time, what really served me was that your the addiction is your coping mechanism for many years of trauma and, like you said, unhealthy regulation and nervous system and things like that. And I put the addiction aside. He's an amazing husband and a great father, and he's trying. And because you were committed to getting back to being that amazing person and husband for me, I was like, so I'm going to keep going until you prove me otherwise. And that would have looked like if you gave up and if you said, forget all this, I'm going back to living in my addiction and I'm happy here and do what you want, goodbye. And if you did that, I would say, okay, we're done. The why I kept pushing for that and all those things that I tried. And in doing all those things, it allowed me to show up a lot healthier as a mom, as a wife. And that really supported our relationship moving forward. I stopped being a crazy person. I stopped driving you crazy. Stop checking in all the time. Oh, did you go to a meeting? Oh, did you speak to your therapist? Did because in times like that, that's a way that you can support each other by giving each other space. That's a huge
Yeah.
strategy.
I'll give each other space. Yeah.
Giving each other space in doing what they're doing.
Yeah, my point of going back to keeping my mouth shut and just cleaning up my side of the street is trying to tell people in addiction, don't use your wife like, oh, you also have to do the work. I work on this all the time, is looking what my part is in it. Is if I feel a certain way, what part did I play? Did I play a part? Or is it just external? For example, if I got angry, if you said something to me, but then I raised my voice and I got angry and I screamed, it doesn't make a difference what was said anymore. What you said to me. I raised my voice. I gotta go see what's going on over there. And that for me is probably was the best thing because I was kind of free. I was total control of my life now. No one's in control of my life but me. I'm in total control.
Mm.
Oh, someone triggered me. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. I'm in control of my reactions, how I show and express myself. That was really super helpful because the minute I take away the blame from everyone and I just put the blame on myself, like I'm responsible now, that was the most. That was the it gave me so much empowerment. Like I'm in full control of myself now.
Yeah, and all these, yeah, it's interesting when I put this kind of question or thought out there. I was like, okay, how can we help each other? But I'm hearing more and more that the best way to help each other is to help yourself.
I like what you said about giving space. I think that, and
Mm,
but by giving space is actually allowing room, which you're not doing anything.
yeah.
Giving space is actually not doing anything. It's just allowing for it to be. I think that's the best way. But I'll ask you where that's not. But in the beginning, I didn't feel one of my problems were that I'd be manipulating. So in the beginning, I felt if you would have given me space and not put your foot down on things, I would have manipulated, continued manipulation, which that was part of the addiction. So I feel maybe in the it giving space, it's a very like you said, kind of like, and I'm kind of calling myself out there, but it's I want to kind of also help women to understand that yes, give space and it's important, but also watch out for it's a very fine line from that manipulation.
Yeah. So I'm thinking space more as like the space to do your own work.
Yeah,
And it is important to just be aware of what are the messages, spoken or unspoken, that your partner is giving off.
an example is if I would slip up with something, usually I would be tend to be very angry later,
Uh-huh. I know what you're
very
gonna say.
very snappy and
Yeah.
stuff. And I know in the beginning you used to feel something, but you didn't know, and you would ask me another. Of course, trying to hide, continue.
Well, I will tell you, and I'll say it out loud,
Yeah,
even is that at the beginning, when I was a little still cuckoo, rightfully so, that I would know something was off. I may or may not have trusted my instinct, which now I can trust very well, but back then I
yeah,
couldn't. So then I would go crazy and I would start looking for everything, go looking through, reading through your things and looking through your phone and all of that, which stopped straight away. But very early on, I was like that. And then I would say, okay, so now I know, yes, I'm right. I was right all along that he's up to no good. And then you'd be all snappy and angry, and I would say straight out, what is it? Like, I know something is up, and maybe you would lie or you
yeah.
manipulate, but I knew because I knew the facts, I found the facts
Right.
that something was wrong, and that I wouldn't tolerate it.
I'm saying that even when you stopped, I think you knew also then.
But that's because I started to really listen to myself.
Yeah,
It
the
took a
instinct.
while to listen. For many years, I couldn't trust it or listen to it.
Yeah, that's something I think for women to.
Yeah, and even today,
Yeah,
with that or with anything, it's so important to trust your instinct to that
yeah,
because you're not really giving space. You're kind of like cutting it off at the head when there is any manipulation or controlling
yeah,
because you're so certain and confident in
yeah.
your trust in yourself that yes, like even if you do get angry or you do, I could say something's up.
Right.
Something's up.
But not all. It's not always. By the way, not. I also learned now that not always when I'm angry is because of the addiction.
Oh no, I know.
Now that I learned how to, now but there's always something deeper going on. If I lose myself in anger, there's always something going on. Maybe now it's not addiction anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
And I will touch on anger just for a little bit. Maybe we can have a whole nother session,
Yeah,
have a whole nother
yeah,
night for another time.
a couple episodes on anger.
But why anger is that example is because you used to be very enrageful. And then when you started recovery, that was one of the big things that you really worked on
Yeah,
and you knew like where your triggers were coming from. So the anger minimized significantly.
yeah.
So that's why even today, if you are starting to get snappy or a little bit of rage comes out,
Something's off.
I'm like, what is up? Because that
Yeah,
is not you anymore.
yeah.
But for the first 5, 6 years, that was you majority of the time.
Yeah. They say in meetings, take the cotton out of your ears and put it into your mouth. Stop talking
It's
and
a good one.
just get to work, clean up your side of the street, and then things will just get better and better and better.
Maybe. Not
No,
always.
no,
Oh,
no,
well, they'll get better for you.
no. They will always get better.
I'm saying they won't get better for everyone's relationship because
I
I will now say for the woman,
Yeah,
you also have to go and take care of yourself.
advocating for the men. I
And
don't know
I'll
about.
advocate for the
I'm just telling the man. Now, it might not get better right away, but you'll start feeling
women.
better. And this is the best thing they told me in recovery. You'll start feeling better, not necessarily feeling good.
Yeah.
You learn how to connect with your feelings. It
Yeah.
might be sad feelings, might be happy feeling, whatever it is, but you'll learn how to connect with your
That's
feelings. And
true.
when you connect with your feelings,
Well, and also, this isn't like, I don't want this to be like a blanket success for everyone. Like there are people who have an addiction who have worked so hard and are doing so well, and there are women who have worked so hard and are doing so well, and their relationship is doing well, and it just doesn't work out sometimes. I followed
right,
someone I followed someone on social media. They had a podcast, her husband, and a therapist. It was a great podcast. I used to listen to them. They
nice, still
really,
listening too.
yeah,
Love them.
I loved them during the hardest times. They really, really helped me.
Yeah,
And a few years later, I mean, they probably worked through recovery for like 10 or so years. And one day they got divorced. And I was shocked because I'm like, what do you mean? You worked on yourself. You worked on yourself.
right.
You have an amazing marriage. What's happening? But it's not a blanket statement for success.
Yeah,
And that's just like, so if you're listening and you're struggling with that or you're questioning your relationship and, you're both doing great work, it just could be that sometimes marriage shows you things that you don't necessarily need to keep pushing and fighting for just because you're doing well.
oh,
Mm,
yeah, it's
yeah.
beautiful.
So I feel like that's a good place to kind of wrap it up because that was a lot on one kind of area. And I know moving forward that we can bring up other things. But as always, if you have any questions or comments or looking for support, you can find me on social media or comment here. And, I'm here. Menachem, you're here. You do a lot of
Yeah.
stuff to support the men or support people in addiction and
Mm,
help people in general.
yeah. Mm.
And yeah, thank you for being here and for listening. And we'll speak to you soon.
We love you.
Bye bye.